Master Sergeant Kate Ghost Anderson maintained perfect stillness as the Kilari general's laughter echoed through the Galactic Military Expo Hall. Her weathered M24 sniper rifle lay before her in the historical weapons display, placed between a Zulu spear and a Japanese katana. The placement wasn't subtle. Earth's most advanced firearms were being showcased alongside artifacts that belonged in museums. Primitive projectile weapons, General Zixtal warbled through his translator, his iridescent scales shimmering with amusement. You honestly expect these to compete with Kilari plasma technology? His four-fingered hand gestured at the gleaming array of energy weapons dominating the main display. Kate's jaw tightened, but she kept her face neutral. 15 years of sniper training had taught her that reaction was a luxury she couldn't afford. Instead, she watched as the alien delegates gathered around the Kilari weapons demonstration. General Zixtal raised one of their standard-issue plasma rifles. The weapon hummed to life, its core glowing with swirling purple energy. Observe true military evolution. A holographic target materialized 100 meters away. The general fired, and a bolt of plasma reduced it to atoms in a spectacular display of light and energy. The assembled diplomats burst into appreciative clicks and whistles. A Centaurian ambassador turned all three eye stalks toward Kate. And your species still relies on, what did you call it? Gunpowder. Yes, Ambassador, Kate replied evenly. We find it reliable. More laughter. General Zixtal slithered closer to her display, his massive frame towering over her. Perhaps the human would care to demonstrate. He gestured to a new target, this one protected by a standard Kilari shield wall. Show us how your reliable weapon performs. Kate knew a trap when she saw one. The Kilari had specifically calibrated that shield to make Earth's weapons look foolish. But as she studied the shimmer of the energy barrier, something caught her eye. A subtle resonance pattern in the field. I accept, she said quietly. The hall fell silent. General Zixtal's scales rippled in surprise. He clearly hadn't expected her to take the bait. Kate lifted her M24 with practiced ease, the familiar weight and extension of her body. The assembled aliens muttered, some in amusement, others in second-hand embarrassment. She tuned them out, focusing on the target and shield barrier. Through her scope, she could see it more clearly now. The shield harmonics had a rhythm, like waves on a beach. If her theory was right. Please, General Zixtal said, badly concealing his mirth. Whenever you're ready to waste your ammunition. Kate's finger rested on the trigger. She'd made shots like this before, waiting for exactly the right moment. Time seemed to slow as she watched the shield's pulse through her scope. Inhale. Hold. The shield frequency reached its peak. Exhale. Squeeze. The crack of the rifle echoed through the hall. For a fraction of a second, nothing happened. Then the target exploded, fragments scattering across the floor behind the shield wall. Dead silence fell over the assembly. General Zixtal's scales had lost their lustrous sheen. Impossible, he whispered. Our shields are designed to stop energy weapons, Kate finished, already breaking down her rifle with practiced efficiency. You never bothered to account for simple kinetic penetration. Sometimes the old ways worked just fine. The general's translator crackled as he tried to form a response. Before he could, alarms blared throughout the expo center. A harried Kilari aide rushed in, tablet computer clutched in his hands. General, the Star Duchess is under attack. Pirates with stolen shield technology. They're executing passengers. Kate snapped her rifle case close. As she turned to leave, General Zixtal called after her. Where are you going, human? She paused at the door. I'm on vacation aboard the Star Duchess tomorrow. Seems I'll be taking my primitive weapon with me. The last thing she saw was the general's scales shifting to a pale shade of realization as the implications hit him. Sometimes the best way to prove a point was to let your actions do the talking. And Kate Ghost Anderson had a lot more to say. The Star Duchess's observation deck offered a stunning view of the Centauri Nebula, and an even better vantage point of the ship's main promenade 12 decks below. Kate pressed herself against the curved glass, her M24 assembled and steady despite the artificial gravity fluctuations. Through her scope, she watched the Resorclaw pirates herd their hostages into a tight cluster. "Last chance, Captain." The lead pirate's voice boomed through the ship's comm system. His shield generator hummed with the same frequency she'd seen at the expo. "Stolen Kilari tech. Transfer control of the ship, or we space another passenger." They'd already killed a Kilari noble, choosing him specifically to demonstrate their shield's effectiveness against energy weapons. The noble's personal guards had fired their plasma rifles uselessly, each shot dissipating harmlessly against the pirates' barriers. Kate's earpiece crackled. "Ghost, this is bridge security. We count 8 tangos, all shielded. Ship's weapons are offline, and they've blocked all transmissions. Please tell me you brought more than that antique." "1 shot," Kate whispered back. "That's all I need." She'd done the calculations in her head. 0G environment, artificial gravity at 82% normal, shield frequency cycling every 3.8 seconds. The shot was possible. Barely. For the love of Earth, it's an 800-meter shot through 6 energy barriers. The security officer hissed. "Even if you could penetrate 1 shield." "The shields link together," Kate interrupted, remembering the expo demonstration. "They're drawing power from a central source." "Hit the right spot." She didn't finish the sentence. Below, another hostage, a young Centaurian child, was being dragged forward. The lead pirate raised his weapon. "Captain, your answer." Kate exhaled slowly, her crosshairs settling on a specific point where the shield harmonics intersected. She'd noticed it during the expo. Kilari shields created a lattice pattern, and at certain points, the energy density was lower. Those points shifted predictably, like a mathematical dance. "Sending ship controls now." The captain's voice shook. He was stalling, but the pirates wouldn't wait much longer. Through her scope, Kate saw the pirate leader's finger tighten on his trigger. The Centaurian child's eye stalks were trembling. Time slowed. The shield frequency peaked. Kate's fingers squeezed. The crack of the rifle was deafening in the enclosed space. For a moment, nothing happened. Then physics caught up. The bullet struck the exact intersection point of the linked shields. Instead of dissipating the kinetic energy, the shields tried to absorb and redirect it, just like they would with plasma weapons. But there was nowhere for the energy to go. The bullet, still intact, punched through the first shield, and then through the leader's chest, and then through the second shield behind him, and the third. The energy discharge cascaded through the linked network. All 8 shield generators overloaded simultaneously. The remaining pirates stood frozen, their supposedly impenetrable defense gone in an instant. "All security teams, move in." The bridge officer's voice had lost its skepticism. Holy shit, she actually did it. Kate was already moving, rifle slung over her shoulder. By the time she reached the promenade, ship security had the remaining pirates in custody. The Centaurian child was safe, all 3 eye stalks fixed on her in what she'd learned to recognize as awe. "Impossible," one of the pirates spat as she passed. Those shields were rated to stop capital ship weapons. Kate knelt by the fallen leader, retrieving her bullet from where it had finally stopped. Embedded in a bulkhead after passing through 4 shields and 2 walls. The projectile was hot to the touch but intact. "Next time," she said, pocketing the bullet as a souvenir, "do your homework. Kilari shields stop energy weapons just fine, but sometimes the simplest solution is still the best one." Her earpiece crackled again. "Ghost, we're getting priority transmissions from Kilari High Command. They're requesting a full briefing on projectile weapon capabilities." Kate smiled, remembering General Zixtel's mocking laughter from the expo. "Tell them I'll demonstrate personally. Something tells me there'll be a more attentive audience this time." The Kilari High Command's analysis chamber hummed with nervous energy. Dozens of holographic displays showed the Star Duchess incident from every angle, each frame dissected by the finest military minds in the Confederation. Kate sat quietly in the center of it all, her primitive M24 lying disassembled on the table before them. General Zixtel's scales had taken on a sickly pale hue as he reviewed the footage for the 100th time. "One shot," he muttered. "One human female with a chemical-propelled projectile weapon disabled our most advanced shield technology." "Not disabled," Kate corrected, picking up her rifle's bolt carrier. "Exploited. Your shields work exactly as designed, against energy weapons, but you never considered that something slower might be more effective." A Kilari scientist, his name untranslatable to human tongues, manipulated a hologram showing the bullet's trajectory. "The mathematics are elegant. You calculated shield harmonics, artificial gravity fluctuations, and projectile ballistics in your head. We call it Kentucky windage," Kate said, suppressing a smile. "Old sniper tradition. Sometimes intuition beats computers." The scientist's translator crackled with disbelief. "You used intuition against fourth-dimensional energy barriers." Before Kate could respond, the chamber's doors hissed open. A junior officer slithered in, his scales flickering with alarm. "General, the data, it's already spreading. Underground weapons dealers across 3 sectors are offering fortunes for human rifles. The Vrek are particularly interested." General Zixtel's tail lashed in frustration. "Suppress it. Classification level Omega." "Too late," Kate interrupted, assembling her rifle with practiced ease. The familiar clicks of metal on metal echoed through the chamber. "You can't suppress physics. Those shields have a fundamental flaw, and now everyone knows it." The general's scales shifted to a deep red. Anger, Kate had learned. "You dare." "She's right," the scientist interjected. His holographic models had expanded, showing shield frequencies across the electromagnetic spectrum. "Our entire defensive doctrine is based on energy weapon supremacy. But these human weapons, they operate on principles we abandoned millennia ago. We've optimized our defenses against the wrong threats." Kate loaded a single round into her rifle's chamber, the sound making several Kilari flinch. "You want to know the real irony? We still teach our snipers to calculate trajectories manually. No computers, no AI assistance, just in case technology fails." "Barbaric," General Zixtel spat. "Effective," Kate corrected. She nodded toward a fresh set of data streaming across the displays, combat reports from the outer colonies, and now the Vrek know it too. The reports painted a grim picture. The cybernetic warriors had already begun adapting their tactics, knowing Confederation shields were vulnerable to kinetic weapons. Their first targets had been colonial weapons repositories, specifically ones containing projectile weapons. "This is your fault," the general hissed. "If you hadn't exposed this weakness." "If I hadn't exposed it," Kate cut him off, "those passengers on the Star Duchess would be dead, including your noble son." She stood, slinging her rifle. "You can blame human primitives all you want, but the galaxy just changed. Question is, will you change with it?" The scientist raised all 4 hands in excitement. "General, what if we collaborated? Human ballistic principles combined with our energy technology. Hybrid weapons." "Absolutely not." General Zixtel's tail whipped around, scattering holographic displays. "We will not debase ourselves by surviving," Kate challenged. "Because right now, humanity's primitive weapons are the only ones that can penetrate your precious shields, and we're not the only ones who know it anymore." Silence fell over the chamber. The junior officer's scales had shifted to emergency purple as more reports flooded in. The Vrek were moving faster than anyone had anticipated. Finally, the general's scales settled into a resigned gray. "What do you propose, human?" Kate smiled, field stripping her rifle one more time. "First, your scientists need to understand that sometimes the old ways are the best ways. We'll start with basic ballistics. No computers, no AI. just physics and instinct. And then, she reassembled the weapon, each piece falling into place with satisfying precision. Then I teach you why humanity never stopped making snipers. Because sometimes, General, the most advanced solution isn't the right one. The chamber's displays flickered with more urgent reports. The galaxy was changing, and the Kilari would have to change with it, or be left behind in the wake of humanity's primitive innovation. The colony world of New Montana burned. From her hidden position in the snow-covered ridgeline, Kate watched through her scope as Vrek war machines methodically glassed another settlement. Their adaptive shields shimmered with each new frequency, automatically adjusting to deflect the Confederation's increasingly desperate energy attacks. "Ghost, please tell me you have something." General Zixtel's voice crackled through her neural link. "We've lost contact with 3 more colonies in the past hour." Kate adjusted her ghillie suit, the primitive camouflage blending perfectly with the snowy terrain. The Vrek's thermal scanners swept the ridge for the 100th time, passing right over her position. They'd never encountered something as simple as a cold-weather poncho lined with thermal dampening fabric. "I've got what we need," she whispered. "Their shield adaptation isn't perfect. There's a lag, about 1.8 seconds between new threats. And they're so focused on energy weapons, they're not even bothering to scan for basic projectile signatures." "Fascinating," the general's voice dripped with sarcasm. "And while you've been playing in the snow, they've destroyed 7 major cities." A Vrek command unit stomped into view, its massive frame bristling with adaptive shield emitters. Kate's finger rested on her trigger, but she held position. "Not yet. Remember what I taught you about patience, General." She tracked the command unit through her scope. "Sometimes you have to let the target feel safe before you take the shot. We don't have time for your human hunting philosophy. The Confederation Council is meeting in 3 hours to discuss surrender terms." Kate allowed herself a small smile. "Then I'd better give them something else to discuss." She keyed her neural link to a different channel. "Ghost to all Phantom units. Sound off." 5 whispered responses came back, each from a different position around the valley. 5 more human snipers, all trained by Kate, all equipped with obsolete weapons that the Vrek's advanced sensors ignored as harmless. "Confederation forces," Kate broadcast on the general channel. "Prepare for a demonstration of primitive warfare." She could practically hear General Zixtel's scales shifting colors. "What are you?" "All Phantoms, on my mark. Target shield emitters only. Remember your Kentucky windage. These bastards aren't accounting for atmospheric drag." The Vrek command unit had stopped moving, its shield cycling through frequencies as it coordinated the destruction of another settlement. "Perfect. Send it." 6 shots cracked across the valley simultaneously. 6 primitive bullets, fired from 6 different angles, all calculated by human brains without computer assistance. The Vrek's adaptive shields detected the threats too late, the 1.8-second lag proving fatal. The command unit's shield emitters exploded in a cascade of sparks. Before its systems could recover, 6 more rounds found vital components that no eye would have considered vulnerable. The massive war machine crashed to its knees, its supposedly invincible defenses reduced to scrap by simple kinetic force. Chaos erupted across the battlefield. The Vrek, suddenly realizing they were vulnerable, began firing wildly at the ridgelines. But the Phantoms had already changed positions, another primitive tactic their sensors couldn't track. "All Confederation forces," Kate broadcast, working her rifle's bolt smoothly. "Target the units with damaged shield emitters. Energy weapons will work once the adaptation systems are down." The valley lit up with plasma fire as the Kilari ships swooped in, their weapons finally finding purchase against unshielded targets. In less than 5 minutes, the Vrek assault force lay in ruins. "Impossible," General Zixtel whispered through the neural link. 6 humans with chemically propelled weapons just prove that sometimes the best technology is the one your enemy isn't looking for," Kate finished, already moving to her next position. "Now about that surrender meeting. I think the Council might want to reconsider their options. She keyed her neural link to the Phantom channel again. Good shooting, people, but this was just one battle. The Vrek will adapt their strategies. Let them, came the response from Phantom 3. They'll just give us more opportunities to show why humanity never stopped teaching the old ways. Kate shouldered her rifle, the weight as comforting as ever. The galaxy was about to learn that technology wasn't everything, and humanity's primitive warriors were just getting started. The old ways are quiet ways. Kate's grandfather had taught her that on her first deer hunt 20 years ago. Now, on an alien world, those words guided her team through knee-deep snow toward their objective. The Vrek's primary command center. The Phantoms moved like ghosts in their white ghillie suits, thermal dampening technology combined with generations-old hunting techniques. Overhead, Vrek patrol ships screamed past, their advanced sensors searching for energy signatures and shield disruptions, but not for 6 humans crawling through the snow. 2 clicks to target. Phantom 2, Jack Morrison, whispered through their basic radio channel. They'd abandoned neural links after discovering the Vrek could track them. Hope everyone enjoyed their morning PT. Cut the chatter, Kate responded, though she smiled. The human ability to joke in deadly situations was another thing their alien allies couldn't understand. Status check. Phantom 3, in position. Maria Rodriguez, their long-range specialist. Phantom 4, ready. Chen Wei, demolitions expert. Phantom 5, green. Sarah Thompson, former Olympic biathlete. Phantom 6, set. James Running Bear, whose tribal tracking techniques had proven invaluable. The Vrek command center loomed ahead, a massive structure of black metal and pulsing shield generators. After their defeat at New Montana, they'd upgraded their adaptation protocols. The 1.8-second lag was gone. Remember, Kate breathed, setting up her position behind a fallen tree. We only get one shot at this. Running Bear, call it. James's voice was steady. Storm front moving in from the north. Winds at 15 knots, gusting to 25. Temperature dropping. Their shields will be operating at higher frequencies to prevent ice buildup. Kate processed the information, making mental adjustments to her calculations. The Vrek's overconfidence was their weakness. They relied so heavily on technology that they'd forgotten the basics, like how cold weather affects ballistics. Multiple targets, Maria reported. I count 15 shield generators, all synchronized. Just like we practiced, Kate responded. Time on target shooting. Factor in the wind calls. Running Bear, start your count when ready. James began the ritual passed down through generations of his people, counting down not in seconds, but in heartbeats. The Phantoms listened, their breathing synchronizing unconsciously. It was a technique no AI could replicate, a human rhythm that transcended technology. The storm hit right on schedule, whiteout conditions reducing visibility to near zero. The Vrek's sensors would be working overtime, trying to compensate for the interference. They'd never expect an attack in these conditions. 3 heartbeats, James whispered. Kate's world narrowed to her scope, the target, and the wind song. The shield generator pulsed with artificial life. 2 heartbeats. Each Phantom would have to hit their target within milliseconds of each other. The generators would try to adapt, but they couldn't handle simultaneous impacts from multiple angles. 1 heartbeat. Kate exhaled slowly, her finger taking up the trigger slack. Send it. 6 shots rang out as one, the sound lost in the howling storm. 6 primitive bullets crossed the distance before the Vrek systems could register the threat. 6 shield generators exploded simultaneously, their synchronized network turning against them in a cascade of failures. Alarms wailed inside the command center. Kate was already moving, her team flowing through the snow like water. Phase 2, she ordered. Close in. Show them what else we learned from our ancestors. The Phantoms descended on the facility like tribal hunters of old, silent, and deadly. Their rifles cracked in precise rhythm, each shot finding a vital point that no computer would think to guard. The Vrek, programmed for high-tech warfare, had no defense against hunters who could track prey through a blizzard. Command center secured, Jack reported 10 minutes later. You're not going to believe this, Ghost. They didn't even have basic physical barriers. All their defenses were energy-based. Kate reached the control room, where General Zixtal's hologram waited. His scales showed a new color she'd never seen before. I've dispatched everything we learned to Confederation Command, he said. They want to know if you'll teach our forces these primitive methods. Kate safed her rifle, snow melting from its barrel. Tell them the first lesson is free. Sometimes the old ways are the quiet ways, and the quiet ways are the deadly ones. Your primitive weapons have caused quite the upheaval. General Zixtal's scales rippled with what Kate now recognized as amusement as he studied the latest combat reports. The Vrek are retreating across 3 sectors, and our weapons developers are working overtime. Kate cleaned her rifle methodically at the makeshift command post, the same way she had thousands of times before. Around her, Kilari scientists huddled over workbenches, studying the marriage of human ballistics and alien technology. Speaking of developments, she said, holding up a new round that James Running Bear had helped design. How are the hybrid cartridges performing? The general's tail flicked excitedly. Remarkable. By incorporating our shield harmonics into the projectile itself, we've created something entirely new. The round phase shifts just before impact, bypassing even the upgraded Vrek defenses. A young Kilari weapons engineer slithered up, carefully holding one of the new rifles. It looked like a bizarre cross between Kate's M24 and their plasma weapons, all clean alien lines, but with the unmistakable profile of a human sniper rifle. Master Sergeant, the engineer's scales flickered nervously. Would you test our latest prototype? Kate smiled, remembering how these same engineers had mocked her antique weapons just months ago. She took the rifle, feeling its weight. The balance was perfect. They'd finally learned not to over-engineer everything. Set up the test range, she ordered, and get the Phantoms up here. They should see this. 20 minutes later, her team assembled behind the firing line. The engineers had erected a series of newest generation Vrek shields, each one supposedly impenetrable to both energy and kinetic weapons. Watch and learn, Kate said, settling into position. The new rifle felt alive in her hands, humming with potential. Running Bear, wind call. 10 knots, quartering from 2 o'clock. James responded without hesitation. No sensors, no computers, just generations of tribal knowledge reading the environment. Kate lined up her shot. The hybrid round contained a miniature shield generator that would activate milliseconds before impact, creating a kind of kinetic energy phase shift. In theory, it would pass through the Vrek shields like they weren't even there. The rifle cracked. Through her scope, Kate watched the round strike. The shield flared, trying to adapt. But the bullet was already through, carrying a piece of the shield's own energy with it. The target behind exploded spectacularly. Holy shit, Jack Morrison breathed. Did that round just? It used their shield against itself, Maria finished, already checking the ballistic data. The energy transfer was nearly perfect. The Kilari engineers erupted in excited clicking and whistling. General Zixtal's scales had turned a bright, victorious gold. And you can teach others to use this weapon. Kate nodded. Already am. The Confederation Academy is sending its first class of mixed-species sniper candidates next week. Turns out lots of species are interested in learning the primitive ways. The Vrek won't know what hit them. Sarah Thompson grinned, examining one of the hybrid rounds. Literally. Their sensors still can't track these properly. Because they're looking for pure energy or pure kinetic signatures, Chen Wei added. Not this hybrid abomination we've created. It's beautiful. A priority alert flashed across the command screens. Kate read it and smiled. Speaking of the Vrek, they're launching a counter-offensive in the Arcturus sector. Apparently, they think they've figured out how to stop our new weapons. Have they? General Zixtal asked. Kate chambered one of the hybrid rounds, the rifle humming to life in her hands. Only one way to find out. Phantoms, gear up. We've got some more primitive wisdom to share with our cybernetic friends. As her team prepared for deployment, Kate caught the general studying her with all four eyes. "Something on your mind, sir?" "Just thinking." His scales shifted thoughtfully about how quickly the galaxy changes. "A few months ago, we mocked your weapons as relics. Now," he gestured at the hybrid rifle, "now you're learning what humanity never forgot." Kate replied, slinging her rifle. "Sometimes the best path forward is to remember where you came from." The alert sirens began to wail. Somewhere out there, the Vrek were about to learn that lesson the hard way. The Confederation's first interspecies sniper academy didn't look like much, just a collection of prefab buildings on a windswept plain of New Montana. But to Kate, watching the cadets file in for morning briefing, it represented something revolutionary. The galaxy learning to respect the old ways. "Today's lesson," she announced to the assembled aliens, "is about waiting." Behind her, the phantoms exchanged knowing smiles. They'd all learned this lesson the hard way. A Kilari cadet raised his tail, their equivalent of a raised hand. "Instructor Anderson, our combat computers can calculate optimal firing solutions in microseconds. Why wait?" "Excellent question." Kate nodded to Running Bear, who activated the holographic display. "Show them, James." The image showed a Vrek patrol from yesterday's combat footage. "Watch the lead unit," James instructed. "Our new hybrid rounds are devastating, but the Vrek are adapting. They've learned to scan for shield harmonics." The footage played. A sniper shot rang out, but the Vrek unit detected the round's shield signature and adjusted its defenses just in time. The bullet deflected harmlessly. "Now," Kate continued, "watch what happened next." A second shot followed, but not immediately. The shooter had waited. 3 seconds, 5, 8. The Vrek's sensors registered no threats, its shield harmonics settling back into standard patterns. Then, at precisely the right moment, the shot came. Clean kill. That, Kate pointed to the screen, was cadet checked. A Centaurian who understood that sometimes the best technology is patience. The four-armed Centaurian ducked his eye stalks modestly as his classmates clicked and whistled in approval. The Vrek rely on prediction algorithms, Maria Rodriguez added from her position by the door. They expect immediate follow-up shots because that's what their combat computers suggest. By waiting, by being unpredictable, we exploit their rigid thinking. Kate picked up a hybrid rifle, the latest mark, a perfect fusion of human design and alien technology. This weapon can punch through any shield in the galaxy. But it's worthless without the wisdom to know when not to shoot. The cadets murmured among themselves. Kate caught fragments of translated conversation. But the targeting computers, why not automate? Seems inefficient. Formation, Kate barked. The class snapped to attention. Each species in their own way. Range time. Today you learn to hunt the old way. No computers, no target assistance. Just you, your rifle, and the wind. As the cadets filed out, General Zixtal slithered into the classroom. His scales showed respect, a color Kate had never seen in those early days at the expo. "The Vrek have begun mass-producing hunter-killer drones," he reported, "designed specifically to counter our hybrid weapons." "Good," Kate replied, checking her rifle's action. The mechanical clicks echoed in the quiet room. The general's scales shifted to confusion. "Good. They're still thinking like machines," Jack Morrison explained, grinning. "Building better tech to fight better tech. Meanwhile, we're teaching their victims how to think like hunters." On the range, the first shots began to ring out. Kate watched through the window as Czech helped a Kilari cadet adjust his breathing rhythm. Nearby, a Proximan warrior learned to read wind patterns from Sarah Thompson. The latest intelligence suggests the Vrek are preparing a major offensive, General Zixtal continued. "Their new drones will hunt for energy signatures, shield harmonics, and targeting systems. Kate interrupted. But they won't look for the quiet ones, the patient ones, the hunters. She gestured to the range, where dozens of species were learning what humanity had never forgotten. Every Kadid out there represents a world the Vrek thought they could conquer. Now those worlds are learning to fight back, not with better technology, but with older wisdom. The general's scales rippled with understanding. The galaxy is changing. No, Kate corrected, watching Czech make a perfect shot after waiting for exactly the right moment. It's remembering. The old ways never stopped working. We just forgot to look backward while running forward. Another shot rang out. Precise, patient, perfect. The Vrek might have their drones, but they were about to learn that some things couldn't be countered with technology alone. The hunt was on, and humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy wasn't the hybrid weapons. It was the wisdom to know when not to use them. 1 year to the day after Kate's shot at the military expo, she stood on the same stage. Her old M24 lay beside the latest Mark VI hybrid sniper system, a testament to how far they'd come and how far they hadn't. The final examination, she announced to the assembled Galactic dignitaries, will be conducted by our first graduating class. Above the expo hall, hidden in the rafters and maintenance corridors, 20 graduates from 15 species waited patiently. Their mission: neutralize a new generation of Vrek combat drones without being detected. The drones, powered down in the center of the hall, represented the pinnacle of anti-sniper technology. General Zixtal, his scales now permanently tinged with respect gold, activated the drones. These units have never been defeated in simulation. They incorporate every lesson the Vrek learned from their defeats: advanced shield harmonics, predictive targeting, multi-spectrum scanning. Kate smiled. Check. Demonstrate the first lesson we learned. The drones hummed to life, their sensors sweeping the hall with microscopic precision. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. The dignitaries shifted uncomfortably. A minute passed. The drones began their patrol pattern. Then, so softly it might have been imagination, came the sound of a single breath being released. One shot, one drone down. The remaining drones instantly went into defensive formations, shields at maximum, sensors searching frantically for the threat. They found nothing, because Czech had already moved, silent as falling snow. The second lesson, Kate continued, courtesy of Specialist Krek of the Kilari 5th Combat Group. Another pause. Another breath. Another drone fell. Impossible. A Vrek representative stood up, his cybernetic eyes whirring. Our units are programmed with every known countermeasure. Known, Kate emphasized, as a third drone collapsed. But your programmers never went hunting. They never learned to read the wind, to feel the rhythm of their prey, to become part of the environment instead of fighting it. The demonstration continued. One by one, the graduates proved what Kate had taught them. Patience beats programming, instinct beats algorithms, and the oldest skills are sometimes the deadliest. This is why we came to you. General Zixtal addressed the Vrek representative, not because of your technology, but because of what you've forgotten. The galaxy grew so focused on advancement that we forgot advancement doesn't always mean improvement. The last drone fell to a perfect shot from James Running Bear's protege, a young proximan who had learned to track prey across 5 dimensions. Kate picked up her old M24, its worn surface a sharp contrast to the gleaming hybrid weapons. 1 year ago, this rifle was placed in the primitive weapons display. Today, its principles protect worlds. Not because it's the most advanced weapon, but because it taught us to think differently. She nodded, and her graduates emerged from their hiding spots, each one moving with the silent grace of a natural predator. They carried hybrid rifles but wore traditional ghillie suits. They used neural links but trusted their instincts. The Vrek thought they could conquer us with technology, Kate continued. Instead, they taught us all a valuable lesson. The future belongs to those who remember their past. The Vrek representative stood silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "We would be interested in attending your next training cycle." The hall erupted in surprised murmurs. Kate smiled. "Welcome to the hunt. Your first lesson begins now. Pick up that rifle, feel its weight, and learn what your ancestors knew before computers thought for them." As the dignitaries crowded around the graduates, General Zixtal approached Kate. "You've changed the face of warfare." "No," Kate replied, running her hand along her M24's barrel. "I just reminded everyone that sometimes the old ways are the best ways." The galaxy was so busy looking forward, it forgot to look behind. She watched as Czech helped the Vrek representative adjust his grip on a training rifle. Somewhere in the galaxy, the next threat was emerging, the next technology promising invincibility. But now they were ready, not because they had better weapons, but because they had remembered that the simplest solutions were often the deadliest. The future would bring new challenges, but thanks to humanity's primitive wisdom, the galaxy would face them with both ancient knowledge and modern tools. And that combination, Kate knew, was truly unbeatable.